most people actually believe the primary tenets of German New Medicine. They're just uncomfortable to admit it because it's called German New Medicine and but his baseline supposition is that if there's something going on in you emotionally, psychologically, mentally, spiritually, it's probably expressing itself through your body. And if you want to know why what's going on in your body is going on in your body, start by looking at your emotional, relational, spiritual, mental, psychological world. Start by looking at your internal world.
Hi, we're Joan and Jamie, two humans in bodies who take care of bodies for a living.
We created this podcast as practical medicine for bodies living through this disembodied time.
We want to invite you to come sit with us and experience the beautiful, loving, complex person that is your body. Hi, Jamie.
Hello, Joan. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you. It's been like an extra long time since we saw each other.
It's been I think it's been like a month since we've recorded.
Yeah.
Just because of traveling and schedules and also just, infusing a bit more spaciousness into the recording schedule this season.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and we didn't really catch up, behind the scenes before hitting record. So this is going to be a very genuine, authentic intro section where we're finding out how each other have been. So,
well, I want to start with you, Jamie. How have you experienced, you'll have experienced your anatomy many, many ways, but what would you like to share with me about how you experienced your anatomy over this past month?
Like you said, many, many, many ways.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a trip to Nashville and back, so lots of sessions, and there have been lots of personal life things as you would expect. But the main thing that feels present today is to talk about how I experienced my anatomy over this past weekend, which is that I attended for the first time in my whole life, actually, a dance workshop. So I've attended, many a workshop in my time, most especially as a professional person running her own thing. You attend workshops of various types to get additional certifications or to learn certain skills that are like automatically and like immediately applicable to the way that you make money in the world.
Yeah.
And I have not only never attended specifically a dance workshop before, I've never done anything like this where I've just like attended an immersion experience facilitated by another person that wasn't for a specific professional purpose. And when I realized that, I felt kind of embarrassed about the fact that I've never,
Listen.
But that, I mean, I literally realized that the afternoon before the workshop started. It was a Friday night, all day Saturday, and then most of the day on Sunday. It was facilitated by a woman in our community here. She's kind of like, I experience her as an elder, though she's like, kind of like not quite yet, in her opinion of herself, but she's very much an elder of like the conscious dance community here. She's the person who runs all the Sunday morning open floor dances. So it was one of her workshops. We are doing a trade because I work on her. And so she was like, because I worked on her before. And she was like, how can I compensate you? And I was like, well, I've wanted to attend, a workshop of yours. So I went, and yeah, the afternoon before I kind of entered into the container, I realized that like, it feels really hard to articulate the specific feeling in my body, to be totally honest with you. Like just like this realization that I have just been, and this folds into this larger realization of just like how little I have been a whole person for the last 10 years. Like how incredible it is that, about 10 years ago, I figured out how to bring my own thing forth so I could exit the kind of like being a cog in the machine and I get to like establish my own course, especially since like what I am doing, I am extraordinarily grateful for it. Like at this point, like I am the business and it's
Yeah.
great for my taxes because like literally everything is deductible if it's like my life because my
Yeah.
life is the curriculum from which I do all of my expressions of facilitation. That's so awesome. And like I said to Ty last night, when I started working for myself, I stopped writing poetry. Like I
Mm.
just clicked into analytical brain and I've like never left.
Yeah.
It was an extraordinary, it wasn't hard at all,
Mm.
like, because it's dance for me is dance is my most potent spiritual practice, like,
Yeah.
and what I realized, like, once I got into the container, I was like, "Oh, what has been hard has been the last few months of my life," like, not,
Mm.
just like, just not being as whole and truly functional
Mm.
as I know that I am when I am tending to myself in this way that like remembers the ritual, ceremony, left brain, spiritual, like whatever word you want to use to
Yes.
describe it, just like is in touch with what is beyond the material.
Yes.
And just the utter pointlessness of like dancing for an entire day on Saturday, like,
Ugh.
but also like, the depth of point, like the depth of potency
Yes.
of what she was facilitating us to work through is this workshop in like paradoxes and embodying paradoxes of like tender and fierce. And
Yeah.
she set up this exercise. I mean, there was a lot of just like open floor movement for like warm up, cool down, various different things. But one of the things was an exercise where you're in a group of four and you've kind of like danced your way to this group because you danced your way to a partner and then you all danced your way to two other partners and that's your little group for the exercise. And one person is embodying tender, one person is embodying fierce, one person acts as the witness, and the other person is the mover. And essentially, like
Mm.
you have identified for yourself something that, like, you feel like you really desire to move towards, but you feel like hesitation or nervousness, fear, whatever. And you're like
Mm.
basically acting that out while like moving in the direction of like tender fear. Anyway, it's a lot to describe. And the main point of what I'm trying to describe by almost like communicating to the best of my ability, this thing that I literally cannot communicate to you because it's like, but
Yeah.
it's what you embody in all of those positions, sure, but like especially what you're embodying when you're like the mover. Or actually, the one I really want to talk about is what I felt while I was embodying the witness. Like the man, one of the men in my group who, when he was the mover and he was like acting out in his body, like that at one point, like he looked like a boxer in a
Mm.
ring or like a feral cat in a
Wow.
cage where like the space that he had to move about, he just had this like look on his face and he was just like back and forth
Mm.
and it was like so much intensity. And like for me, when I was the mover, I was like, I'm pretty intense. So I was like crawling on the ground
Mm.
and then like shuddering like back on the floor, like running
Mm.
back like this, like I can't, I'm afraid. And then like, no, I have to.
Mm.
And you're like, you're literally embodying all of that in your
Yeah.
being. It's such a depth of intimacy with self and intimacy with others. Like I again was
Yeah.
describing to Ty after the workshop, like that man that I like sat in the witness position of when he was like moving that way, in a very real sense, I know him better than
Mm.
most people on the planet who know his like personality structure and how he presents and how his physical body restrains themselves
Yeah.
in polite society.
Ah.
But like I just witnessed my job in that role in that game, was to witness just
Yeah.
this raw body just telling the truth.
Wow.
And a part of the workshop was, admission to, but I was always going to go, the Sunday morning open floor dance. And it just so happens that it's the last one in that space in this community. There is like a new sort of temporary space, but basically this space has been the studio, Jenny's studio. And so therefore the studio for these open floor dances for like 17 years. And so
Whoa.
it was like this homecoming, graduation. There was like 100 fucking people in that room. It was packed. And
Oh my God.
there was a point in the whole, wave, like hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes, where, okay, stay with me. She played Rihanna, which is like not normally for like these open floor things. Like you don't get a lot of like popular music, and you certainly
Yeah.
don't get a lot of music with words. But she decided what felt right after this like really flowy kind of tribally beat thing to just bring in the da 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 da
Oh,
da da
come
da da.
on.
And it
It just.
started doing some stuff in the room. And I had
Mm,
started my bleed that morning. So I was like really kind of playing with, and I'd been dancing all weekend. So I was like, how much energy do I have? I had conserved
yeah.
it for like the couple of songs prior to that one. And I also felt what was good, and so like just
Yeah.
felt myself like drawn to like the middle of the room. And like at that point where like, it's kind of the bridge and it like drops out and she repeats the yellow diamonds in the sky, but it's like the minimal sound behind it.
The
And then it
best part of
builds
those
and
kinds of
builds and
songs.
builds. It built so
Yes.
much. And then Jenny like had that part. She like put it back and like repeated that part because she could feel, she was like, this, whatever this is, she got on the
Yeah.
mic. She was like, it wants to keep going, like keep going.
Ah!
And so I have never seen, I have never felt, I have never experienced, I have never heard, I have like this degree of primal human. There was like no maintenance of an identity in that
Ugh.
place for like
Mm.
for the period of time, is that the second time that that bridge was building, and like myself and like a couple other people in the very middle just started going like grunting, screaming, and like the
Yes.
whole room is doing it like with the beat. And then when it like hits, like this just roar, this scream. It was just so, but it was like, it's this high, literal and energetic, like high note. And so everyone is
Mhm.
just erupting in this joy and like this like ecstasy
Yes.
of like just the present moment, because it matters that it was like everyone knew this is like the last time we're all dancing together in this place.
Yeah.
It was just this like full acknowledgement of the ending of things. And yeah, so how I've been experiencing my body, my anatomy lately is like specifically through the vehicle of dance,
Mm.
and it's
Mm.
reminding me that I need to anchor there more, because I
Yes.
just, for 1,000 reasons, I just need to like set down the over prioritization of like my left brain like I just like, and
Yeah.
again like, and this is the thing too, like since the workshop, like I'm having a hard time like caring about talking. So that's another thing that's really interesting about this.
Cool.
This is the episode where I talk about things that are complicated to talk about at all, but also like, to be super honest, I'm talking about things that like a very large part of me is not that interested in talking about, because I know the truth of them
Mm.
in my body. And I
Mhm.
am I am just not in really that invested anymore in like convincing people of anything or pitching people of anything, or just are
Yes.
I'm becoming less and less invested in talking about anything at all, actually. Like, and that was happening already, but to just like be bodies together in like a dance context. Like the main
Yeah.
language I was speaking the whole weekend was the language of movement. So like
Mm.
verbal language is just kind of like, I'm like, I don't like it as much. So it's just, yeah,
It ain't a dance, that's
yeah.
for
So having
sure.
to like get back to work is like funny. And then the fact that we're doing this is funny, but I'm gonna, I have like an enormous amount of notes, and I have no idea how this is gonna go. So that's
Well,
where I'm at.
I'll name, like, I mean, and like, of course, you're sovereign in what you decide and what you want and your intentions for you. But just to say, as one of the recipients of what you're going to share and the direct recipient in this conversation before it goes out elsewhere, I am also not interested in hearing you attempt to convince me or anyone else
Mhm,
of anything.
mhm,
I am deeply interested in hearing what feels exciting or delightful or true,
mhm,
and what it means to you.
mhm,
that's what I'm interested in hearing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in case it
That's
helps to
harder
name.
actually, but thank you for saying that. But that's like,
Yeah.
that's like the I could prepare notes and started to on some level, like to prepare notes about like, here are the principles, like here's the 5 biological laws of
Yeah.
and I'm like, there's no
Yeah.
real life on that for me. The thing that
Sure.
does have the most life on it is actually the more vulnerable topic to talk about, which is just like
Yeah.
my personal relationship to
Yes. Yep.
sure GNM, yes, but like the larger I was thinking about this as I was getting ready. My personal relationship to the larger paradigm shift that has happened within me as I have
Mm.
opened myself
Mm.
up to it. And
Yeah.
then also have like been willing to learn more about like the origins of the things that I used to be convinced of. And I'm not convinced of like the efficacy of those origins anymore. And so I
Mm.
feel myself, I don't know if this is going to go well because like I cannot find language for the past 48 hours. So like I don't, we'll see.
We'll see what
We'll
language
see.
drops out.
Yeah.
I think that's very intriguing, though, honestly.
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
it's going to be a good conversation,
M'kay. Yep. We'll
and
see
we'll
how it
see.
goes. Yep.
Hmm.
How have you been experiencing your anatomy lately?
Yeah. I've had like quite a lovely week, but full of contrast. I'll name one lovely thing, which was that I got to give a presentation, like a one of the keynote presentations at this conference for long-term care physicians in Toronto on Saturday.
Mm.
And even just the origin story of how it came to be. I was asked to give this speech because the person who is in charge of the conference had heard my podcast episode with Padre Gotuma from last
Mm.
year
Mhm.
about conflict and him so lovely, and was like, I think we need to know about this in long-term care. There's so many different things of conflict. So then I went through the process of creating this talk for this conference. Like I didn't previously have a talk about conflict and generative conflict,
Yeah.
which was in itself fabulous for like revealing all of the ways I still feel like an imposter talking about conflict, because it's still
Mm.
my
Mhm.
tendency is to be accommodating. My tendency and a strong piece of me, story in me, is to see if I can find a way away from conflict,
Mhm.
which is impossible actually. So, better
Yeah.
than I used to be. But and even like owning that as like that's the frame in which I'm sharing with you about conflict, is that
Mm.
I am like I have a tendency to, and just the beautifulness of that, and like the day of that I re-listened to that podcast interview and was like, I did this. I'm talking
Yeah,
to
there you
him.
go.
Hello. So
That's
like
an
you like
excellent way to prepare for that. Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, this is me. He just said Joan. Like there's like sort of those levels of like, this is part of my history, and
Mhm.
now it's leading me to here. And then the talk was at the end of a long day, right before they were all like released for the day. So I was like, no one's going to show up. And then like I don't know, the room was like 3/4 full, which is like amazing.
Mm.
And it was like not like a laugh out loud one, but it was people kept taking pictures of the slides, which never happens with my presentations. Maybe you don't go to a lot of conferences. Maybe you're like, what? But like at conferences, medical conferences especially, there's people that love taking pictures of those slides as if they're ever going to look at them again.
Yeah,
Bless their
totally.
hearts. And I mean, I've
Yeah.
done it a couple times where you're just like, I need to capture this. I don't know if I'll see this. But it's
Mhm.
usually about like details of information.
Yeah.
And mine are like slides that have quotes on them and poems
Mm.
and illustrations.
Yes.
But they were taking pictures, which was such a like, look, they're interested. And then people came up after me and were like, when you shared that part, it reminded me of the relationship with my teenage child. And then someone
Mm.
else came up and was like, that helped reminded me. They all just had thoughtful, beautiful things to say. And I was like, this is the best conference I've ever
That's
been
so
to.
good.
But in this like totally lower key way than the big laugh out loud one I shared, I think a couple times ago. This one was just like connection.
Mhm.
So that was a beautiful way I experienced my anatomy. And then also, interestingly, again, in the days leading up to it, I had a series of experiences with my body that you could say were a kind of conflict,
Mm.
like 3 separate encounters, like one with a patient, one with a colleague, one with a learner, or whatever, like these different people
Mm.
where I was in some sort of tension and conflict with them.
Wow.
And notice the kind of, I don't know if they didn't know that they were in conflict with me.
That's
What
interesting.
was happening in me was a strong desire to rescue them from something that wasn't up to me.
Yeah.
And so I still frame that as conflict because of how then there's another part of me that gets all resentful and
Yep.
you know what I mean? As
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm trying not to jump in, but here I go. And then another part of me is like, how dare they? And why are they bringing like it's like that kind of conflict,
Yep.
or, and just noticing what a strong bodily urge that is
Mm.
for me
Mhm.
still
Yep.
to, drama triangle rescuer, like,
Mhm.
and
Well, and
just
then
witnessing that.
when you don't get to successfully rescue, now you're the victim. So that's the
That's it.
right. Yes.
And like, they didn't even take my advice.
Right. Yep.
Why did they even ask if they were going to take my advice,
Mhm.
Jamie?
Yep.
And now they've ruined my whole morning.
Yep.
And don't
Because
they
that's the
know?
secret is we're all actually trying to get back to victim. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's real. So again, and just witnessing that happening,
Mhm.
then having this other experience where I got to teach others and myself my favorite ways to help myself release from those things. So just
Yeah.
like real example, and so that just it actually all felt so good. It
Yeah.
helped me like reconnect with some journaling practices. It sort of woke me up of like, girl, like, hey,
Mhm.
you're still doing this.
Mhm.
And not in a shame way of like, I haven't come far enough or whatever.
Mm.
But like, oh, all right, what do I need here?
Mhm.
This happened a few times. What does my body telling me I need? And like, how can I
Mhm.
ground myself? Gotta do some Byron Katie. Gotta do some dancing.
Totally.
By the
Yeah.
way, I definitely need to do a 3-day long dance workshop just to go
Oh,
back to yours.
yeah.
That's happening in my future because that is like, hell yeah.
Well, especially I mean, it's useful for anything and everything, but especially like, what's generally going on underneath any sort of energy of conflict that we're holding within ourselves is that like there's some sort of truth that wants to be accessed and acknowledged. And again,
Yes.
I don't know a more potent practice for accessing like truth or like getting into alignment with the truth than just like letting your body move truthfully, uninhibited
Yes.
for an
Yes.
extended period of time. Like it is such an extraordinary technology.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, highly recommend that. But it also sounds like it sounds like you did a great job. Like even like
Thank
just with the
you.
way that you were resourced enough like at the time to do it. Like I don't know if there's any other way than like doing a good job because like you're going to do the job that you have the capacity to do and you're going to be able
Yeah.
to learn what you're able to learn from it and then you're going to be able to make meaning from what you learn. And so
Yeah.
that, the all of life becomes the curriculum at that point.
Like those were 3 teachers for me right
Yeah.
before my talk on conflict.
Yeah.
And that
Yes.
felt
Exactly.
important.
Yeah. Yeah.
And kind of almost, and like I can see some curriculum moving forward in some of these spaces where I'm gonna be, say, revisiting like the patients next time I
Mhm.
see them or whatever, right? Where it's like,
Mhm.
oh, there's stuff to explore here.
Yeah.
And it also really helps instead of like being like, oh no, I need to avoid that person, or oh no, it's so hard or whatever.
Mhm.
Just being like really deeply in learning mode, in
Yeah.
student mode. Even if you're technically the leader or the teacher or you're technically the whatever. No, just put that over there in the corner and just be like, listen, the only thing I really have the option of being is the learner in this
Yeah.
situation because otherwise other weird things keep coming out of me. So I'm
Well,
just
yeah,
gonna
I mean, that's the only
be the
way
learner.
to be the teacher is to like it's just model learning, I suppose. Like model what your
Oh my
learning
God.
has been. I think
Exactly.
I think that's it. I think it's the only other option.
Period. I needed to hear exactly just that actually. That was like, yes. Okay. Well, now that we've caught up a bit,
Mhm.
and I really did love hearing all of those catch ups. How do you want to frame? I've heard that you said I'm not sure how I want to frame it,
Mhm.
and I believe the purpose of our conversation today is to
Figure
hear,
that out.
yeah,
Yeah.
figure it out through the one of the banners is German New Medicine.
Mhm.
As you discovered your German New Medicine,
Mhm.
you said a paradigm shift. I'm very intrigued by that, and yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea what's about to happen. I have probably between this notebook and my notes app on pulled up on my computer right now, I probably have the equivalent to like 15 pages of notes, which is far too many. Well, I think the main thing I don't know how to do this. Like I don't know how to teach is the thing.
Mm.
I know how to
Mm.
facilitate. I've been
Yeah.
facilitating for 10 years. I have been a responsive conversation partner for 10 years. I have
Yeah.
extraordinary proficiency in being a responsive conversation partner. Gee, I wonder
Mhm.
why. Was that my survival strategy in my social circles, in my developmental experience?
Mm.
You
Mhm.
betcha. But the experience of like, and to your point just now, like, what I almost wanted to say, like the experience of like standing up in front of people and teaching something like from the positionality of an expert. Like I have no real
Mm.
experience in that, but even less experience in the thing that is actually going on when you're a teacher, which is what you just articulated. Like, you're not actually like standing up in front of people and teaching something from the positionality of an expert. That would be easier if you could just be like,
Yes.
here's all the stuff I know in my brain or the
Yeah.
things this is the key. Here's my regurgitation, my perfect
Yes.
regurgitation of all the things I have been taught.
That's it.
That
Yeah.
would be, I don't even have proficiency in that on some level, thank goodness. But
Mm.
that would be even easier than
Yeah.
doing the thing that I really have not done much of throughout the entire course of my life, which is like standing in a literal or figurative position of like people's attention is in my direction and I am attempting to articulate a belief or a practice or a paradigm or a concept that has meaning
Yeah.
personally and individually to me, the meaning and value of which is largely um, unmeasurable by
Mhm.
anyone outside of me, or as we'll probably get into here in a minute, according to modern, the value system of modernity, things that are unmeasurable are pseudoscientific.
Right.
So
Yeah.
automatically I'm at a
Mm.
disadvantage unto that
That
paradigm,
idea. Yeah. Mhm.
that idea,
Mhm.
value system.
Yes, yes.
Because if it's not measurable unto the constructs that we have deemed the only constructs we will measure by, then it is
Yeah.
immediately dismissed as pseudoscience. But what we're really saying is you're dumb if you believe it. Like that's what we're saying.
Oh, yeah. It's like it's a shaming.
Mhm.
It's an othering. It's a
Yes,
yeah,
that's what we're
diminishment.
saying. And
Yeah.
the tricky thing here is that from what I have come to understand and like believe and experience, et cetera, about modern medicine in general, at least here in the United States, it's that exact process of we will systematically shame, we will
Mm.
systematically exterminate, actually,
Mm.
any thought or practice that does not directly benefit the um the ultimate desired ends of like whoever happens to be in charge at the time.
Yeah.
We will, we'll do everything we can in our power to, because it's not just like, we'll do everything we can in our power to like get rid of that, but like even more especially to discredit the full humanity of anyone who continues to believe or practice the things that we
Yeah.
have attempted to discredit. That
Yeah.
is quite literally how modern medicine came to be.
Mm.
Quite literally, that is this is not a conspiracy theory. This
Yeah.
is if you pull up on Wikipedia, you Google Flexner report and you look at how modern medicine in the United States of America came to be, you can read exactly the process at the American Medical Association, which was a trade union, by the way. What is the primary intention, goal of a trade union? To protect the interests of its members. The
Mm-hmm.
American Medical Association said that everything it was doing to silo off, the practice of medicine was for, to serve the public's good. And I'm sure they meant that too. But the
Yeah.
main thing they were doing was making sure that being a doctor could be a lucrative profession. So they needed there to be less of them.
It to
Otherwise,
be
they
a privileged.
to be a privileged position.
Mm-hmm.
So when the Flexner report came out and these medical, I mean, let me, you know what? Let me just read it to you straight from Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
Impact on alternative medicine. When Flexner researched his report, modern medicine faced vigorous competition from several quarters, including osteopathic medicine, chiropractic medicine, electrotherapy, eclectic medicine, I don't know what that is, but it sounds cool,
Mm-hmm.
naturopathy, and homeopathy. Flexner clearly doubted the scientific validity of all forms of medicine other than that based on scientific research. Now, I just want to say, isn't that fascinating? I've got a whole thing I might get into here later about like what we're calling pseudoscience. Many of these actually are based in the scientific method. We just don't like the results they got. So now we claim they're not based in science. Anyway, deeming any approach to medicine that did not advocate the use of treatments such as vaccines to prevent and cure illnesses as tantamount to quackery and charlatanism. Medical schools that offered training in various disciplines, including electromagnetic field therapy, phototherapy, eclectic medicine, physiomedicalism, naturopathy, and homeopathy, were told either to drop these courses from their curriculum or lose their accreditation and underwriting support. A few schools resisted for a time, but eventually most schools for alternative medicine complied with the report or shut their doors. Now, there's two other sections in here you can read in the Flexner report about impact on African American doctors and patients and impact on women. What do you
Yeah.
guess that was? Because who was
Exclusion of.
practicing these alternative, read ancient methods
Mm-hmm.
of healing? Who was doing that? Not the rich white men. So I believe German New Medicine to be a revolutionary framework for health and healing. I don't need it to be 100% perfect or accurate.
Yeah.
I don't even need to understand it 100%. Like, he did some deep fucking shit with, like, brain scans and, like, I mean, just there was a certain point in time, I think in the 2 years since he, like, was like, "Whoa, I think there's something going on here." And when he attempted to present his findings for his postdoctorate and they literally refused to review it and then told him he needed to deny all of his findings or he would lose his ability to do X, Y, and Z, and he was like, "Sorry, can't do that." I'm pretty sure he had like in the course of 2 years, he got 40,000 case studies that all
Mm-hmm.
confirmed his findings. 40,000 case studies. And this university said, "We won't even look at it."
Yeah.
So, and this is another thing that feels important to say, like, I might get into his biography here in a little bit, but like, he's not just like some very smart person that suddenly became stupid. It's like really interesting how, like, if you look up Ida Rolf, like her Wikipedia, Rolfing is also labeled as pseudoscience because, like,
Mm.
lines of energy in the body, what a crazy quack. But she had like decades as like a fucking biochemist or something. So it's like, okay, these are not people who followed their intuition out of the
Mm-hmm.
system they were taught in were not geniuses until like they became profoundly stupid, which again, like, this is what we're implying when we say, like,
Yes.
we call it pseudoscience, like, and there's an element of Dr. Hammer's story that like is often used as like the thing that people point at as like, well, this is the moment that he went crazy, or just like this is the thing that happened to him that, now this whole alternative paradigm that he, ideated deserves to be discredited because of this particular thing. But he did so much research. There's so much to it. I have a very surface level, for all intents and purposes, knowledge of like the depth of this framework. Like, what I know is that when I first encountered it, the underlying premise of the body is wise
Mm-hmm.
and is, well, I mean, there's five in Germany medicine, there's five biological laws. The fifth one is the acknowledgement that there's no evil in nature. There's no malignancy in nature.
Mm.
Nature only does what makes sense to carry on life. That is one of the
Mm.
core foundational principles of German New Medicine. This is why I believe it. It's like I had been teaching this idea for years of like the body is wise, the body is good, but like trying to like square peg in a round hole inside the, modern medical system that I just kept, we've talked about this before, like I just kept
Yeah.
getting this like reception of the body as being other than like what I was coming to know her as. And then somewhere along the line a couple years ago, I was introduced to the existence of this thing called German New Medicine that like essentially is just talking about how like the body's always working with you. It's never working against
Mm.
you because they can't do that. They literally don't know how to do that. So I believe this to be like such a revolutionary framework. Like I said, I don't need it to be 100% perfect or accurate. I mean, nothing is. That's what's so fascinating is like the modern conventional allopathic system is also not 100% perfect or 100% accurate.
No,
But for
very
some
much not.
reason, if there's like a cancer patient who undergoes radiation and chemotherapy and the cancer does not go away and they die, we don't believe that like if you look up Dr. Hammer's Wikipedia page, it doesn't
Mhm.
tell you about the 40,000 case studies. It doesn't tell you that during one of the times that he was being prosecuted later in his life, the prosecutors actually ended up having to be forced to present evidence that there were of 6,500 cancer patients that he had been treating with most of them had what had been deemed as terminal cancer. Decades later, 6,000 of them were still alive.
Mhm.
6,000 of them were still alive. But if you go to his Wikipedia, there's one case listed of a little girl whose parents had specific religious beliefs. And so they sought him out to go with his practices instead. And this was in Europe. The country that they were citizens of decided to intervene as if they, knew better than the parents or could infringe upon their religious beliefs, which can't do that in the United States, but you can do that in Europe. And, it's really interesting because like the actual story is such that like she didn't die because she was like forced to basically receive
Mhm.
radiation and chemo. And like that's what healed her. Like it's just
Right.
there's so much assumption baked
Mhm.
into this shit. There's so
Mm.
because the narrative just must be protected at all costs,
Yeah.
apparently. And
Yeah.
let's go back all the way to where I started this rant. Like, why? It's only as recent as like 115 years ago that alternative medical schools basically had to be bullied into
Mm.
comply or lose your funding. And I don't really think it's that left field to like suggest that what we've gotten in the last 15 years from that was like organized around the special interests of some already rich people who are all shaking hands with one another. I don't really think it's that left field to suggest that what we have gotten ourselves into has made us far less well than we could have been had all of the curiosity, all of the possibility, all of the
Yeah.
potential of health and healing, all of the wisdom, all of the knowledge, all of the ancient practices, had they all been allowed to flourish, had they all been allowed to sustain themselves, I think we could be more well now.
Mm.
We have to admit that we barely know what's even possible because our entire system of how we approach understanding and treating the body in modern medicine was built and remains rooted in a foundation of anti-physiological living. This is industrialized medicine for industrialized bodies. It is a
Mm.
false premise that industrialized medicine has brought us greater health because the fruit doesn't bear out. We're not moving. We're not breathing
Yeah.
the right way. We aren't getting light. We aren't getting touch. We aren't getting nutrients or even like water the way that our bodies need. And this isn't just like as we know here, it's not just like the patients are doing worse. The practitioners are
Yeah. It's not
also
good for
it's not good
anybody.
for
Mhm.
anybody. So
Mhm.
this is like there's like so much to pull apart here
Mm.
about even just like the fallacy of like industrialized medicine itself working in any way, shape, or form because like we are not industrial. beings. And
Yeah.
and so maybe I'll like
Mm.
segue us now into talking a bit about Dr. Hammer himself, because that feels really important. It actually feels like so, so, so vitally important to set this foundation of like who this person was and like why I believe why and how he ended up uncovering what he ended up covering about the spiritual technology of the body, because he was a deeply spiritual man, so he knew what he was looking for. Because
Mm.
so first of all, I'll just say he is in fact German. He was born May 17th, 1935. So he was a Taurus. By the way, Ida Rolf, also a Taurus. I didn't know that before I researched this, and I was like, man, there must be something about us. Like her birthday's May 19th, mine's May 13th. I'm like, you guys,
Connecting.
what is going on here? I don't know, but I like it. So in 1953, he started studying medicine, physics, and theology.
Mhm.
At 22 years old, he got a master's in theology, and at 26, he was licensed as a doctor. Right there, we can just stop right there and say this matters. This means everything. The fact that
Mm.
you have this person who is simultaneously a student of the spirit while also being a student of the body.
Mm.
That matters so much to understanding him and also understanding German New Medicine itself, like why he connected the dots he connected. So when he was my age, 37, he was an internist for cancer patients. And he was also, this is so fascinating, he was inventing medical devices. So again, like
Oh, cool.
smart fucking guy.
Yeah.
So he invented a non-traumatic scalpel. Apparently, it cuts 20 times sharper than a razor blade. How
Ooh,
in the hell? So cool.
fancy.
Also, a non-traumatic scalpel, I feel like if you're gonna be cut into,
I
it's
know
gonna
it
be
is like
trauma.
it's a little bit of marketing, but I hear it like so it's like only cut exactly where you want to cut and
Totally.
like I get what they're saying, but yeah.
Yeah.
Unless
I
it's
wouldn't call it
like
non
a smooth stone.
totally, which you're not really cutting at that point.
Yeah.
So he invented a particular kind of bone saw. And then this is my favorite. Oh my gosh. He invented a massage table that automatically adjusts to the body's contours. I want it.
Oh,
I want it so
what?
bad. Yeah. I
Cool.
don't even know what that means. But okay. So, well, here's the thing. He was doing great. He was doing really well. He was like a very smart practicing physician. He was like inventing all this stuff. I mean, he was renowned. He was wealthy, et cetera, et cetera. He moved to Italy with his family, and he started treating the poor in Naples for free. And so, I mean, again, he really believed in the type of medicine that he was practicing at the time. Otherwise, he wouldn't be doing what he's doing. He wouldn't be giving free medical care to the poor in Naples.
Mhm.
The main inciting incident, like, as we would say in like then his hero's journey, it was just kind of like the
Yeah.
screeching halt moment of this person's life. His adult son was unexpectedly shot. I think
Mm.
it's so funny. It's not funny, but fascinating. I can't quite figure out exactly what happened, but it seems like the location and individual is interesting. He was shot while like sleeping on a yacht, the yacht of like the son of the last king of Italy or something. So again, this mattered because I'm like well connected, like
Yeah.
affluent family. Like this guy was like peak of, So anyway, so his son is unexpectedly shot. It takes him about 3.5 months to die, but he does eventually end up succumbing to his
Mm.
illness and dying. And not long after, I think only like a couple of months after, Dr. Hammer, who I mean, he's been super healthy his entire life. And also he's been like working directly mostly with cancer his entire life.
Yeah.
All of a sudden he develops testicular cancer.
Mhm.
And the first place that his brain well, I can't say if it's the first place. I wasn't inside of his head. But what that does is he begins to wonder if the development of his cancer is related to the unexpected loss of his son.
Mm.
Because
Mm.
essentially, he, like me, like many of us in our lives, have wondered if this thing my body is doing might be related to what I'm going through emotionally. Maybe. Maybe
Yeah.
my body is also going through something that is
Yeah.
the same thing that I am going through. And it mattered to him that it was testicular because it was like, to put it kind of crudely, like the place his son came from. It's like this, like, this conflict is the language that ends up emerging inside of this system of medicine. But this conflict in his like reproductive organs that, is incited by this deep grief of, the
Mm.
loss of his son.
Yeah.
There's a way of looking at Dr. Hammer's story where you're like, he was like a regular doctor until his son dies. And here's where you can
Mhm.
go one of two ways. He went
Yeah.
mad from the grief and he started imagining that he could fix the world or control like people do this. They totally do
Yeah.
this where they like
Mhm.
they grieve something that like happened that, is an expression of the uncontrollable nature of the world. And so then they start imagining that there's ways that they can like control and understand the world. And sometimes those people like quote unquote go crazy and they don't ever really like come back.
Yeah.
This is what feels really important to me too when we talk about German New Medicine. Like, in order to decide what kind of relationship we want to have to this paradigm, I believe we need to like get really clear on what we believe about grief, the purpose of grief.
Mm. Mhm.
Is the purpose, do we believe, and anyone can believe anything. That's what I'm saying. Like, I happen to believe that every time that I have encountered deep grief, especially when I am anchored in a relationship with the God of my understanding. So, again, remember, we're talking about a person who has a deep faith, a
Yeah.
deep religious and rich faith and connection with the divine. When I have held deep grief and I have felt held by the divine,
Mm.
what does that grief do to me? It has cracked me open
Yeah.
and taken me through. It has acted as a portal that has taken me into deeper wisdom I could never have seen or experienced or known before.
Yeah.
That's what I believe happened here. And it is mystical. It is spiritual. This is the thing. Like, what's fascinating is German New Medicine is also profoundly measurable. And there's an
Mm.
element of it. I think it's hard for people because there's an element of it. Yeah, we could call it a self responsibility element. Sure. I mean, it never at any point is saying like you made yourself sick. It's just saying like, hey, it's hard to be a person and you're impacted by things unexpectedly. And that's difficult for a body to recover from. So it's
Mm.
not, any ways in which German New Medicine has been characterized as like blaming people for getting themselves sick is just like a really gross, I think, intentional misunderstanding and misread of the paradigm. But
Mm.
I do believe also like there is a way in which this paradigm can be really hard for people because it is a spiritual paradigm that goes beyond the
Yeah.
material. Dr. Hammer himself said, as it relates to conflicts, because this is the core principle of German New Medicine, is like you develop these conflicts, the body adapts in response to the internal conflicts. And then you have symptoms that arise from, the body going through that adaptation or healing from that adaptation. So symptoms often are when the body is healing from an internal conflict. It's like the conflict has not been resolved, all of that. But Dr. Hammer himself said we have to resolve conflicts twice, first in real terms and then spiritually.
Mm.
Like this is the core foundation of this, paradigm of medicine and healing. So he loses his son. I believe he did not go crazy. I believe he walked through a portal with probably deeper integrity than he had ever accessed in his entire life. Because that is what I have felt to be true in my body and my experience. And in doing so, he started investigating his patients, his cancer patients. He started investigating their personal histories. And he developed this hypothesis that all bodily processes are controlled by the brain. Because this is the brain scan stuff. It's really fascinating and like deeply scientific. But like essentially, whatever's going on in the body is incited by what's going on in your like psycho, spiritual, emotional world because he
Mm.
was seeing this as he was looking at his own patients and he would talk to them probably for the first time, like started talking to them deeply about their lives and then started
Yeah.
realizing like the Venn diagram was a circle where it was just like, yes, they had experienced some kind of deep loss. And then he started like cataloging these 40,000 case studies was like, this type of cancer in this organ, like this area in the body is related to this kind of conflict. Like
Mm.
all these people seem to have like the same underlying emotional state or response or for him like the fact that it was in reproductive organs like having to do with like the loss or could even be perceived loss of the ability to have children or the desire to have children or the actual loss of a real living child. Like it does definitely necessitate, I'm sure it necessitated some, I don't want to say this, like dancing in the realm of imaginative possibility, maybe we'll say, or just
For
like the
sure.
willingness to
Yeah.
like see connections where they might be less obvious. I don't think that's the same thing as like making shit up and trying to force it to fit. I really,
Yeah.
because again, that would necessitate me believing that this good doctor suddenly became a bad one or this smart person suddenly became stupid. I just don't think that's valid. I just don't think that's like a solid way of thinking about people at all, but especially like this individual based on all the information we have about who he was prior to this point. So he spends 2 years just like feverishly researching this because I'm sure I can imagine it started out as this like nice thing to do
Yeah.
instead of like really being with the group. But I'm sure it was also just exciting to be like, holy shit, wait a minute. What the
Yeah.
hell am I looking at here? And this is in the 80s, by the way. This is in the 1980s. This is not that long ago. And for anyone listening, like you can go to learninggnm.com for way more than I could ever express in this episode, but also his like full bio and all of the descriptions of like his process of development of GNM. But basically, he started analyzing brain scans alongside medical records and personal histories, which I think is such a fascinating approach. I feel like that's something you would be interested in doing right now. I feel like that's something like any good, compassionate, curious, awake, alive, modern doctor would be like, let me see what dots I can connect. Like, what did this person just go through?
Mm.
Especially these days with what we know about trauma and what we have all understood and accepted and believe about trauma and the adaptations in the brain and the body according to trauma. Like, he just got super
Yeah.
curious about like what's going on in the brain. What are these people's medical records and like what have they recently been through as people? And he found clear correlation between certain shocks, conflict shocks, and how they manifest in the body as specific symptoms in specific places. And then again, the part that feels a little too complex for me is like the parts of the brain that that's correlated to, because in these brain scans,
Mm.
he would like see certain parts light up and just really interesting.
Mm. Cool.
So maybe unsurprisingly, prior to his research, there were like no studies on this. Like nobody had ever wondered about what's going on in the body and what maybe has been going on in the personal history of
Yeah.
the individual.
Interesting.
Yeah. So he formed the 5 biological laws. He confirmed his findings in over 40,000 case studies. And in 1981, he submitted his research as his postdoc thesis to the University of Tübingen, which I guess is like where he was also in some kind of contract with that university because, again, the committee refused to evaluate his findings and they told him to deny his findings or his contract at the university would not be renewed. It was a
Mm.
very violent response, very out of
Yeah.
left field. And so he allowed himself to be dismissed because he was like, I can't do that. So he maintained his private practice. He at many points attempted to open his own clinic, but was always like, there was always some sort of, intervening
Mm.
upset to his ability to do so. The powers that be became increasingly upset with him continuing to practice from his findings.
Mm.
In 1989, so 8 years after his initial attempt to publish his findings, a court sentence stopped him from being able to practice at all, practice medicine, period. If you go to Wikipedia, there's a really particular character description of him there,
Yeah.
quite different than his biography on the website. The word pseudoscience is all over the place, and that's in my research. So I was like, I have an idea. And then I went to Ida Rolf and I was like, pseudoscience, 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 all over the place on her Wikipedia too. So I think it's kind of ridiculous to think that these like super smart people just like suddenly went stupid.
Mm.
Yeah. So okay. So I feel like that's good enough to kind of talk about him. Like
Like the
he continued,
background
yeah,
and
he
Mhm.
went to other places, continued to practice. It's funny. There's like a line in the Wikipedia page that says like there was like I think like a Swedish newspaper or something at one point that like reluctantly admitted that over the course of his life and career, he had spawned like a number of adepts, essentially, like that unfortunately people were like believing this guy and have started to.
Mhm.
And this is the thing too, like more and more and more people these days, like right now, are becoming super open and curious about German new medicine. I think the thing that fascinates me the most about all this is the tone. Like that
Mm.
whole tone of like, unfortunately, he has duped, this dumb guy has duped all these dumb people, and all these idiots are out here thinking that modern medicine isn't 100% the way. And I
Hmm.
just can't with that tone anymore
It's
because
such an unhelpful tone.
we just have too much information to believe it's a lie. Like, it's a tone
Hmm.
of cynicism, it's a tone of
Yeah.
judgment because it's the only thing, it's all the lie has left at this point.
Mm.
Anchor this all inside of the context of in 1910, alternative medical practices were fucking systematically wiped out in the United States.
Hmm.
That was good news for some of the things that were not doing good and were like, were even actively causing harm. I think it's just a really silly position to believe that like there wasn't anything that was wiped out that could have had efficacy to it.
Mm.
I can and will go into specific details as much as I can about German New Medicine itself, but it just feels really important to just lay and to belabor the point of laying this foundation of like, especially since this season we're talking about the realm of imaginative possibility. How serious are we about this? Like,
Yeah.
seriously, how
Are you
serious
willing to
are
open
we?
your imagination all the way?
Yes,
Yeah.
all of the way. And that is what I really, really want for modern medicine, because it is what most people are seeking, what most people are moving towards, what most people are going to when they feel fear in their body, when they feel pain in their body. One single takeaway from this episode of me talking about German New Medicine. I don't really think that his base supposition is that crazy.
Right.
That's the thing. I don't need the rest of it to be, like I said, perfect, accurate. I don't need to,
It doesn't have
the
to
baseline.
supersede something else in the one true religion of whatever, right? Like, it's not about that. It's like, but what's wrong with exploring this as well?
Well,
Or why couldn't this all
why
be a
can't
part
we
of the
just see our
truth?
patients as whole people and wonder about their lives? Like,
Yeah,
that's what
for
I'm
sure.
saying. Like,
Yeah.
why is that an insane premise to be like, I wonder if something going on emotionally, like at this point, I'm so far removed from thinking anything other than this. Like, it's hard for me to articulate. I'm just like, I forget so often that the majority of the people like in this country are moving about the world having no idea that what's going on inside of them emotionally has any bearing on what's going on in them
Yeah.
physically.
And
This
that's
is all he just happened to be
mhm,
saying it in 1981. That's it.
mhm,
That's it. He was just too early with this stuff. Like,
mm,
at this point, fascinatingly, most people actually believe the primary tenets of German New Medicine. They're just uncomfortable to admit it because it's called German New Medicine and but
yeah.
his baseline supposition is that if there's something going on in you emotionally, psychologically, mentally, spiritually, it's probably expressing itself through your body.
Yeah.
And if you want to know why what's going on in your body is going on in your body, start by looking at your emotional, relational, spiritual, mental, psychological world.
Mm.
Start by looking at your internal world. I not only don't think that's like not crazy, I'm like, isn't that what we all know by now? So, like,
It's a
why
pretty
is this stuff
solid
still
starting
so
place,
hard for people?
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. When,
totally.
it's what I hear you, it's the type of medicine I hear you practicing. It's the type of medicine I hear Roxanne practicing. So,
Mhm.
yeah, there is a way in which, like, we are kind of more on the same team than we think we are. It's just
Yeah.
like he introduced these concepts entirely too early and it got labeled as a thing. And then that got labeled as a certain kind of way. And now that's kind of just like lodged itself into people's minds.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but I really just don't think it's that different than what a lot of just like present conscious modern physicians are actually practicing, again, at its foundational
Yeah,
level.
like the organizing principles, like
Mhm,
what you just to say for myself, what you shared with me about like the organizing principles makes total sense to me.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
well, just that what you've lived through impacts what's happening in your body and
totally.
can have a bearing on your what your body then expresses. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay, so let's get into some of the basic principles because
Hmm.
this will be fun to do it this way because you're like, okay, so far what you've explained to me about this concept, like, kind of makes sense. So
Yep.
I'm gonna give you a quick rundown of the 5 biological laws.
Okay.
These are the ways in which Dr. Melissa Sell, who's a woman that I've learned a ton of this from, just following her online and watching some of her YouTube videos. So I'll be quoting 2 people in this episode, Dr. Melissa Sell, and then a woman named Nellie. I should know her last name, but I don't. Her Instagram handle is Nellie_New Earth Wellness. She is a GNM practitioner in Australia. So 5 biological laws. Number 1, diseases start with a conflict shock, which initiates a survival adaptation program in the psyche, brain, and organ. So the only thing about this is like it's not all diseases because
Right.
obviously there are injuries,
Yeah.
poisonings, and then injuries, poisonings, and malnutrition are the 3 that are like those can have absolutely nothing to do with like
They're
an internal,
environmental.
yeah, totally
Yeah.
environmental. And then, a lot of his research went into like this idea that like the content of the shock. So there's like separation conflict, there's scent conflict, there's indigestible morsel conflict. Those are the 3 I'm most used to working with. Like
Mhm.
separation conflict manifests as skin issues. Scent conflict manifests as sinus. I am in the final bits of a healing phase from a scent conflict, which is why I had some like sinus drainage and sinus stuff going on lately. And indigestible morsel conflict is like stomach stuff,
Mm.
vomiting. In fact, here's a real life example from our lives recently. Our 9-year-old Ezra, he had a conflict shock with a kid in our community who had this like really kind of volatile reaction to a thing and had like not in like a way Ezra was expecting or anticipating, had like hit him like real full force.
Mm.
And I looked at it happened on a trampoline gathering of some friends. And this kid was upset. He perceived to have been a slight in his direction and
Mhm.
he acted out. And it was really fascinating because like right at that exact moment, I looked over at the trampoline. And so what I saw was the look on Ezra's face immediately after he had been hit. And it
Mm.
was shock.
Mm.
It was
Mhm.
just that full, like, he, like, froze for a second, and he was, like it, like, knocked him down. He was, like, sitting, and he just, like, was frozen and had that shock look on his face. So I'm immediately like, "Conflict," like, "We'll see what happens here."
Mm.
So our friend who's the mother of this, child that Ezra had the conflict with, she needed someone to pick him up from school because there was, like, a work thing, and so Ty picked him up, and he came over to our house for a little bit, and so I was just wondering, like, I was like, "Oh, I wonder how that's gonna feel, like, what that's gonna be like for Ezra, to be in the presence." Because we had run into each other at Whole Foods, like, a couple of weeks ago, and Ezra's body just, like of course, I read this stuff, like, the moment that Ezra, like, saw this kid, he just, like, froze up,
Ah. Mhm.
and so I was like, "Oh, yeah, there's still some residual there." So I was going from afar, going into this being like, "I know he's still got some stuff going on, like, so would I, totally."
Yeah.
And long story short, they had a great hangout. It was like nothing ever freaking happened. Like they played Legos, they loved their time. And when I checked in with Ty that night about it, he was like, they did great. Like they had so much fun. It was only like 2 hours, but like totally fine. So I was like, huh, all right. He resolved his conflict. The next day, Ezra, for absolutely no reason, is vomiting uncontrollably all day.
Mm.
All
Mhm.
day. The next day, he played 2 back-to-back soccer games and scored a hat trick in the second one. Like,
Mm.
he's
Mhm.
fine. So it was like he didn't catch a bug, like, he wasn't like, he didn't
Right.
eat anything. It was like truly his indigestible morsel conflict. He was in
Yeah.
the resolution, the healing phase, just throwing up like crazy, and then his body moved through it in the time his body needed to take to move through it, and the next day, he was perfectly fine. So I have started to really see, first and foremost in my own life, like when symptoms arise, I work backwards. And at this point, I know before the symptoms come that the symptoms are going
Mm.
to come because I'm
Mhm.
like, I just resolved a thing or I've recognized I was in conflict and I am committed to the resolution of the conflict. So here we go, body, do your thing. Like, because this principle, this law is essentially like the thing I love about this is it's basically saying there's this process of like, you experience a shock. And in response to experiencing that shock, your body, who loves you and
Yeah.
can't help it because they can't help but, be working on your behalf all the time, they immediately, automatically initiate a biological process, a special biological program, as it's called in German medicine, to assemble all possible resources in the direction of your most possible survival. Because
Mm.
previously, and for other living beings, and also before our brains were story machines, it was just legitimately survival, threatening things that were occurring that would create these shocks. It's
Yeah.
what we've learned about trauma, Dr. Peter Levine's work of like trauma is a unresolved impact of a thing that threatens or appears to threaten, your life. It's his work in Waking the Tiger of like, it used to be that there would actually be something like chasing us that we needed to,
Yeah.
run away from. And now we can do that in our own minds, create those things in our
Mhm.
own minds. But your body doesn't know the difference and they just have
Yep.
one job to do and it's love you and save your life. And so
Yeah.
your body goes, "Oh my God, let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's outrun this thing," or do what we need. And so the body adapts in one of three ways: by either eroding cells for specific survival-based reasons, decreasing function. We just know this. We know this. If you get scared or like if
Yeah.
something threatens you, you go sympathetic, function shut off, shut down. We
Yeah.
already know the body adapts when you feel these ways. We
Mhm.
know this already. So the other one is cell proliferation. So it's a protective response from your physiology. That enters you into conflict active phase. Often there are no symptoms during this phase. There's just like excess energy. You're running sympathetic. And then there's this whole principle of like a hanging conflict where if like it just perpetuates and you can't or you don't get to a place of resolving the conflict in like an emotional, mental, relational, spiritual way, a chronic condition can develop because the body can't stay in that state and be well. And so if and when resolved, the body needs to clean house essentially because it's been running these special programs because you've been in this survival state. And now that you're not anymore, it's kind of a lot to ask of the body to like return back to baseline homeostasis without going through anything to
Yeah.
get
It
there
needs to shake
first.
it off or
Yeah,
shed or whatever, right? Yeah.
totally. Yes.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that is what he suspected and then was able to confirm in all of his research is like that is in fact what is happening. But that's what's so tricky is if we're working with an alternative view of the body, which is that like symptoms arise and that means you're sick now. When symptoms arise, that means there's something wrong now.
Mm.
Now you can be sold something that heals you from that now. And if
Mm.
that is, you know, if for 115 years we have told people that's the way bodies work, that's the only way you can get better, you can sell a lot of fucking shit.
Mm.
If in fact that is not the only way bodies work, and if what is going on is that your body is actually returning to baseline in healing from an underlying shock,
Yeah.
you don't actually need to be sold anything. You
Yeah.
actually just need to wait it out.
Yeah.
We don't
And
like
be
that.
like doula'd through it, if anything,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And
Supported
there's
through.
and this is one of the things I love about Melissa Sell. She's like, you also don't have to just wait it out. You can totally go to the doctor if you want. Because her whole thing with
Mhm.
GNM is she's like, it's not what you do, it's actually how you feel about what you do. It's not the treatment, it's how
Mhm.
you feel about the treatment.
Which
Because
that's placebo effect, nocebo effect. You know what I mean? Like that's
totally.
all
Yes,
for
that's it. And
sure.
there are some people who are like probably pretty hardcore about quote unquote German new medicine as like the only thing. So like don't ever take an Advil. But for people
Yeah.
like Dr. Melissa Sell, she's like, take whatever you believe is going to work for you because
Yeah.
that's the healing state of the body. So to like
Yeah.
adhere to principles that you don't believe in or to, you're kind of missing the point of it. So
Mm.
this reframe of like what symptoms are and
Mm.
where they're coming from, I think is super important. I think that really matters for everything from how we view the body, like our characterization of the body, all the way to like how we interact with the body. Like even the minutia of are we putting unnecessary chemicals in our bodies when they're actually going through a healing
It's
process?
just not necessary. It's like it would, yeah,
Totally.
they'd be okay without
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Yes. So that's a large extrapolation of the first biological law, which is kind of I would say the main premise of German New Medicine and the most compelling aspect of it for me. So before
Mm.
I go into any of the other ones, I'm curious, just like talk to me about your feelings of the first biological law.
Yeah. Well, I can see how so the way that it really easily fits in what I already know to be true, which it would be okay
Hmm.
if it was not fitting in perfectly well
Yeah.
or if I was like, huh, I don't get it. But like I'm like,
Hmm.
I can see how it certainly fits in very easily within all of the times where modern medicine doesn't have an answer for symptoms. You know what I
Totally.
mean? As just a
Yep.
very easy entry point,
Mhm.
because there are so many times where even
No
actually
one knows that better than doctors. That's the thing.
yes. And like even like doctors will be like we might have a different terminology for it, but we're like, okay, we know that this is not due to a thing that we can now extract, or a thing that if we
Bingo.
treat will be and then the patients are like, please just give me a pill, right? Like we
Yeah.
know that the
Yeah.
cell is off.
Yep.
There are
Yep.
times where it's a match, but there's also lots of time where it's not a match, in terms of like, I don't have a pill for that, or the pills we have are
Yeah.
clearly not working.
Yeah.
And the other layer is, for sure, I've seen over time, and have seen from so many different places, including things that are already accepted by, not that those make them superior or not, but just to say, from even
Mhm.
inside the pearly
Mhm.
gates or whatever, that's
Yeah,
what
totally.
the
Yeah.
White Castle, whatever the terminology is. But like, we know that emotions impact the body. We know that like trauma, easily
Bingo.
accepted, didn't always used to be, right? So like, anyway, it's like
Yep, it is, but that's the thing. It is
the
now.
obvious,
Yep.
yes, and like the obviousness of that,
Yeah.
it makes so much sense. And I can think of times where even having direct conversations with patients, and like them making connections of like, I realized I was feeling this way, and I don't know if they would say like a conflict and then resolved and all of that, but I can see
Mhm.
where like the impact of what we physically, emotionally, spiritually experience, how then our body reacts according to that,
Yeah.
and expresses that. All of that sounds totally like it makes
Mhm.
sense. It's totally
Mhm.
I don't want to say it's reasonable, like but it
Mhm.
makes sense to my reason. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's what I mean. Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
it could be so useful
Mhm.
as a way for someone to understand themselves and their body, especially when it's
Yeah.
framed in the way where I heard you frame it. The place I could see where it wouldn't resonate for me anymore is if someone's like, anytime anyone has a symptom, the only reason is it's an old conflict, and they forget about
Mhm.
injury, the
Mhm.
other ones you said,
Mhm. Yeah.
poisoning. Like, in that, in my sort of experience and understanding, those are also true,
Mhm.
though certain symptoms, for sure, the ratio of times people really want their fatigue to be thyroid
Yeah.
condition
Yeah. Oh,
versus
oh,
the
yeah.
amount of
Oh,
time
yeah.
it's not that,
That's right. That's right.
versus there's other times where like certain kinds of symptoms, it's in certain presentations, like this is appendicitis, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's very
Yeah.
clear, and then when they do the test, it all lines up, and then like, you know what I mean? Versus
Yep.
like there's other things where it's like certain ways of symptom expression where um
Mhm.
trying to seek something to have a surgery about, or trying to seek some, like, people can be very harmed by
Yes.
empirically treating, is what you call it, like treating
Mhm.
like, well, maybe it is an infection we just can't find, and then any treatment has potential harms, right? So
Yes.
having this be on the differential, like that's what we call it, like differential cause of symptoms, like we call it differential diagnosis, having alongside like malnutrition and injury and whatever else, like having
Poisoning. Mhm.
poisoning,
Mhm.
having emotional
Yep.
conflict, and like having that on the differential, that would be so cool, and would serve medicine so well for so
Yes.
many reasons, actually.
I think it's the most logical and the most effective place to begin. Why are we not always beginning there?
Why is that not one of the basic ones you
Yes.
screen for?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, I would tangent for another 30 minutes in a way that's not effective if I were to actually give the answer I believe is the answer to that question I just asked of why aren't we doing this?
Yeah.
I feel like I pretty clearly understand why. But
Yeah.
again, like, what's the fruit? Like,
Mm.
I know why we have discomfort around suggesting to another or accepting for ourselves that we might bear some party. We might be participating in some way inside our mental and emotional world in what's bearing out in our body. I understand why that's difficult. to suggest to another person as a practitioner. And I understand why that's difficult as a person experiencing something scary in your body. I understand why that's difficult to allow yourself to begin to consider. But I swear to God, it's freedom. I swear to
Yeah.
God. Like it is the only sensible first place to begin, because what the fuck
Mm,
else is this stuff doing? Like,
mm,
because at this point, the idea that, again, largely the premise in modern industrialized allopathic medicine is we don't fucking know, because it's just an object that's malfunctioning all over the place in
mhm,
undefined, unorganizable way. And we just need to like put things that can be purchased that make certain people a ton of money into these things in order to make them stop doing the things they seem to be doing for no apparent reason. And I'm just like, I'm so tired of us treating ourselves that way. I'm so tired of us treating bodies. And ultimately, what is the fruit of that?
mm.
What is the fruit? Where are we? After 115 years of only interacting with bodies that way, what have we gotten ourselves?
Yeah.
It's not fucking working. We are
Mhm.
sicker than we have ever been. Human beings are sicker than we have ever been. This is not this type of medicine is not for us. There are definitely things that deserve to be kept about all of these profound scientific advancements that we've made. Like, yes, keep much of it.
But there's like an
Tell
and.
yourself the truth and
Yes.
please just like dispose in the garbage, like
Yeah.
so much of it, and be willing to allow back in the things that humans actually knew and practiced for millennia
Right.
prior to the last 115 years, that again in this cynical judgmental way has been like, sold to us as the only practical thing to do, the only practical way to interact with the body. But meanwhile, like again, has made some very specific people very, very rich. And everyone else is suffering from this being the only way that we are interacting with bodies. That's like an objective fucking fact. Like doctors have the highest suicide rate of any profession. It's not going well. We
Yeah.
have more chronic disease in human bodies in modern society than ever. Like it's not going well. So like I don't need anyone to believe in German new medicine. I really want
Yeah.
people to like this. For me, German new medicine it was and is an avenue for beginning from that starting place of what if I interacted with my body as an intelligent spiritual technology?
Yeah.
What if I
Which I
started there?
love. I love that.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. So I feel like we probably need to take a
I was
break.
like, I think we've got
Yeah.
to do a little pause-a-rooney. And that felt like a really beautiful place to land,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, great. And then maybe I'll just
Yeah.
do like a quick overview of the other biological laws and then talk about what German new medicine isn't and is, and we'll go there.
Yeah.
So
That
great.
sounds great.
Cool. If you'd like to connect with us, we invite you to join us on Substack.
exanatomy.substack.com is the home for the Experiential Anatomy podcast. It's the place to stay up to date and never miss an episode, even if you're taking a break from social media.
You can subscribe for free, and you can contribute to the sustainable creation of these conversations by upgrading to a paid subscription. Paid subscribers get access to special content like audience Q&As, bonus episodes, and other supportive materials that we've created along the way.
We love it there, and we hope you will too.
All right.
So with that,
yeah,
let's go.
We're back from our break where
Yes.
I am in fact enjoying myself. Okay, so I'll just try and quickly kind of run down the rest of these biological laws. Because again, I feel like the first biological law communicates the primary premise.
Mm-hmm.
The second biological law is essentially just kind of expounding on that disease runs in two phases when there is a resolution to the conflict. So there's a conflict active phase and then the healing phase. So just basically talking about, what we understand to be disease is these adaptations, that occur in the body. And when you start to experience symptoms is actually, when your body has like resolved the conflict. Then, like I said, there is such a thing as a hanging conflict, and that's when you remain in a conflict active phase for an extended period of time. You often don't have symptoms in that phase, but you are consistently drained of your energy, like your vital life force energy, which is
Yeah.
why your symptoms can be so extreme when you do finally move into a healing phase, once you really have finally like resolved that prolonged hanging conflict, because you have been so depleted and so drained of your vital life force energy for such a long period of time. Your body has been like holding it the fuck together. And
Yeah.
now they are crashing out like crazy in order to rejuvenate resources, clean house, do everything that's needed. So symptoms come in. And again, like this perfectly tracks over yoga philosophy of just like
Mm.
Rajasic, Tamasic. And when you're up here for way too long, it's like what we know about the nervous system and
Yeah.
sympathetic, and then you shut down. So that's basically biological law number 2. Number 3 relates a bit more to the brain scan stuff that like I just haven't looked into too much, but he went real deep in this theory of like each organ comes from an embryonic germ layer, which adapts in a particular way. So, this is known. All the organs in the body developed at certain times as the embryo developed.
Yeah.
And so each organ is correlated to like which germ layer of the embryo that anyway.
Yeah.
And so for him, this is like part of what he mapped out is like though the organs that developed in certain layers, like they all have similar conflicts or like light up similar parts of the brain. So like there's organs that were developed in a certain embryonic layer light up a certain part of the brain.
Hmm.
It's fucking
That's
fascinating.
a
Like
fun connection. Yeah.
yes, I think it's just so interesting. I don't know for me, if it's like all that moving as far as
Right.
like but I'm like, that's fat. And if he had like 40,000 case studies that just like confirmed, I was like, what a fascinating finding. Number 4, this is one that I find really, really interesting and that I think is really hard for most people at this point. And I think it's the one that people get really hung up on and why they feel the need to dismiss German New
The
Medicine.
totality. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, totally. So there's this idea that microbes actually optimize healing. So inside of the kind of modern medical paradigm, with like kind of what we have in front of us at the moment about like kind of modern like virology, there's this idea that you can like take in an external microbe, an external pathogen. And when that thing that comes from the outside goes to the inside, you contract it. It's that particle, that microbe, that external thing that actually creates the disease, the distortion in the body. And we believe this because it's, quote unquote, observable as far as when someone is expressing symptoms in some way, we look at their tissue and we see the presence of these microbes. Um, we have it backwards. He's saying we have it backwards. Like the fact that you can observe these microbes in the tissue when there are symptoms is because the microbes, they themselves are not the cause of the symptoms. They're actually the cleanup support crew during the healing phase. The body actually generates these microbes for the express purpose of helping to support the body in like that cleanup crew. And so one of the premises that comes with this fourth biological law is that there is no such thing as like things being contagious. That doesn't exist.
Mm.
Because again, if everything except for injuries, poisoning, and malnutrition are a result of an internal conflict, you can't, and this is the part where it gets really interesting with like the data that's been collected about like mass psychosis and like mass events where like large groups of people in one place or are connected in some way all develop like similar symptoms because of an underlying thing. Like there's so much to this that I'm not going to get super into, but this is one that I've been like working with more often now, like just like becoming more and more curious about. Cause this is the
Yeah.
one that when I first encountered German New Medicine, I was like, that's like too far out left field. And as I've been
Yeah.
willing to like, look at more things and research more, I'm just like, this is interesting. And again, for me, I'm just like, what would be the implications of that,
Yeah.
in either direction? And so that's the one I'm kind of just like curiously sitting with at the moment.
Mm.
I like the idea of like, life supporting life, as opposed to life somehow coming in and getting distorted as being like a source of malignancy somehow, even though it's like but because we know we have like beneficial bacteria. And so I think
Yeah.
that's an interesting alternative way of like life supporting life. And that does honestly like then lead into the fifth biological law, the quintessence, which essentially just like supports that by reasserting there is no evil in nature. There is no malignancy. Nature only does what makes sense to carry on life. So it's like, well, wouldn't it make sense if this is the premise we're working with, then you would kind of have to see, we'll admit that you would, if that's your committed to premise, you would then have to see microbes as a support system as opposed to a malignancy because you've already been committed to seeing things in a certain way. So just
Hmm.
going into that a little bit more, like GNM explains microbes, bacteria, et cetera, found through modern scientific observation technology as friendly assistance in repair and in the repair and cleaning process rather than hostile and causing symptoms like catching a cold, externally based particles. GNM also sees them as like, you know, simply like byproducts of the adaptation process. They're either cleanup crew or they're like remnants that are currently being cleaned up, basically, is the explanation for like why we can observe these things. So
Hmm.
again, I have very rudimentary knowledge of how any of that works, but I do think it's important to say like both GNM and the modern medical paradigm pull data out of assumptions. Like
Yeah.
that, like that's all that's going on anywhere with anything, everything, all the time, period. And if we are uncomfortable admitting that, like that's a separate issue. But like we're all just like kind of guessing and we're guessing from our assumptions. Now we do have the ability to like test things and that's cool. But when we are testing things, we are testing them on the basis of our assumptions, our
Hmm.
foundational underlying assumptions. So I think this matters to say because of course it makes sense that we are inclined to work with the assumption that symptoms equal bad. They don't feel good.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so of course because they don't feel good, we go, these are bad. I wonder what bad thing caused them. So
Mm.
that's
Hmm.
the assumption when we go, I don't feel good or they don't feel good. Let's look at their tissue. We see stuff we don't normally see. What's our assumption going to be? That bad. Why? He feel bad. Like
Yeah.
we're very simple and I love us for the simplicity. But again, if you just shift your assumption, all you have to do is shift your assumption. If you are shifting your assumption, you're going symptoms, you don't have to shift from bad to good. You can go symptoms, reasonable.
Yeah.
Symptoms, logical. Symptoms, expression of body who loves me and
Yeah.
was trying to keep me safe. And this is just the neutral consequence. The way I'm feeling is the neutral consequence of this cleanup process. Like at this point when I have symptoms, I'm just constantly reaffirming the mantra to myself, like, thank you for a body that knows how to heal. Thank you for a body that knows how to
Yeah.
heal. Thank you. Rather than
Thank you
like,
for
I
caring
feel
about
like
me.
shit. I feel
Yeah.
shitty. I
That's
caught something.
huge.
I'm powerless. I'm whatever. Like just the ability to choose the better feeling thought by going like, thank you. You're healing. I believe that you're healing. So if I'm starting with the baseline assumption actually that symptoms are reasonable and are just like neutral consequences of natural biological processes from a technology that doesn't know how to do anything other than work on your behalf.
Hmm.
Then, if I look at that tissue and I see microbes that weren't present, what's going to be my assumption? Those are probably helpful. Those are probably doing something reasonable. Those are probably doing something logical. Those are probably doing something. So, again, like
Mm.
yes, it's going to affect how you see. Did it affect how Dr. Hammer saw? Sure. It affected how all of these people in all of these schools that were the only schools that were allowed to keep flourishing in 1910, it affected how they saw things too, because they were starting from the premise when a body doesn't feel good, something has gone wrong. What if
Right.
when a body doesn't feel good, it is actually the completion, something is going really right in a
Mm.
return to homeostasis. You were alive and you were impacted. Welcome.
Yep.
Welcome to being
A
here.
wave
So
hit you and now
something hit
the
you and now
cleanup's gonna,
exactly, this is
yeah.
all neutral stuff. So a
Yeah.
couple other things. I love us so much, humans. We just like feel better when we have something to fight, you know? We just gotta
Yeah.
like fight something. We have to have something to be against, like a villain that we can be the hero in the direction of. Also the assumptions that we are working with, at the beginning of, the allopathic paradigm, bodies are unintelligent and weak. Why did we need bodies to be unintelligent and weak? Because then the people who inhabit those bodies become excellent cogs in the machine. It's
Yeah.
industrialized medicine for an industrialized society.
Mm.
And then also believing that bodies can be unpredictably impacted by external, unseen, scary, blah, blah, blah substances. Like all of these are just like, these are assumptions. These are assumptions. These are not facts. These are just assumptions that then we extrapolated data that confirmed our assumptions out of. We also had the assumption that the mind is separate and that thoughts have zero impact on our bodily state. We know better than that one.
Yeah.
And then the other assumption I wrote down is we need external influence, in parentheses, that generates massive wealth for others, by the way. But we need external influence in order to know and heal our bodies. We don't believe that premise anymore either. So again, these are all assumptions. They're not verifiable facts. They're stories, and they are recent ones, and they are colonized ones. That matters to this discussion too.
Yeah.
So, and they're created from the consciousness of the last 120 years of industrialized medicine. So if we change our assumptions, then we change our assessments, and then we change our actions. So my bottom line is like, what's the fruit?
Yeah.
These assumptions about the body, where has that gotten us?
Yeah.
Has that gotten us to a more well, human population, or has it not? And also, that is not a simple black or white yes and no. It's because there are tons
absolutely.
of modern advances and developments that, as a matter of fact, have gotten us way more well. Like when it comes to like acute emergency medicine, holy fucking shit. When it comes
Just
to
keep a body doing all sorts of things.
totally,
Yeah.
when it comes to like the baseline well-being as it relates to like metabolic health versus dysfunction, the existence of chronic disease, like something's going on. And so I really think that, again, the infusion of some of these principles of these based in these assumptions about the goodness and the intelligence of the body would really help us out with that stuff, that part.
Especially what you just said. Like I love the idea of infusion, and not even like, it's not about, at least for me, it's not about like, gotta make sure something is kept in supremacy over the other for me personally. But of course that is at play in terms of especially the dismissiveness, which is just like literally not helpful.
Yeah.
Doesn't make a thing go away. Anyway, what even, you know what I mean? Like even if you, whatever, like it's like, that doesn't help it.
You can bully it, but that doesn't like,
now it's over in a corner. It's like, it's growing. Like that's where like the idea of actually infusing these perspectives and wisdom into what is clearly not working in medicine, and I suppose vice versa too. You know what I mean? In the sense of like what if we all opened up to all the possibilities and weighed each, again, sort of in that moment in time, in that context, and then because you have a fuller menu, hopefully there's something even more resonant for you to choose from. Like, I think that's a really exciting possibility.
That fuller menu, like that's the thing. That's the thing. That's like the thing.
The
I'm
more
like
choice thing versus the right versus wrong choice.
Yes.
No, thank you. Hard pass on.
I just want this folded in. I just want
get it in the stew.
Want Dr. Hammer's because again, like this university that refused to review his findings, they have been court ordered twice since his death to review them, and they have like refused to adhere to the court orders. Like
why wouldn't you just look at it? You could give, and then you could give it whatever critique or whatever, you know what I mean? But like, why wouldn't you just look at it?
We don't know if it's quack nonsense. We don't know if it's pseudoscience yet because you refuse to review. Like this is, what are you so afraid of? How absurd is it that Wikipedia says this is pseudoscientific, but the university has been court ordered twice to review it and they refuse to even look at it.
Yeah.
How do we know?
Yeah.
I just, that core thing of like, why are we so afraid of folding as much as we possibly can into the realm of imaginative possibility so that we can all be and encourage one another to be individually sovereign enough to decide what works the best for us because it is the thing that most appeals to us.
Yeah.
What are we afraid of?
What are we afraid of? I do think one thing, I'm like chewing on the fourth principle, like you are also chewing on it. And I think for me, at least like a way that would make sense to sort of square it or like to have like understand it and see where I connect with it is certainly like the idea that any microbe equals harm, danger, attack from the outside.
Mhm.
I think that that's common knowledge of not being true, and that we
Yeah.
need some, and so,
Mhm.
and old ideas of like, therefore, like, sterilize everything all the time, all in all
Totally.
places. Like, I think we understand
Mhm.
that it's like everything's never all or nothing, which is kind of a funny way to say
Yeah.
it, actually.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something. But like, there are friendly microbes, there are friendly things.
Yeah.
It's about finding balance,
Yep.
and to me, like, even the other categories that they've labeled of like poison and injury. So to me, in my understanding, both like witnessing, learning, like the combo,
Mhm.
is like that certain microbes in certain states would cause a poison or an injury. Like, that's how I
Mm.
would put it,
Fair.
to see
Yeah.
that. And so
Totally.
then, and
Yes.
and to me, I think
It
it's,
reminds me real quick,
yeah.
I'll say, of something you had said before. I can't remember if it was in this context, a voice memo, or in a private conversation, that you're like, one of my kind of issues with people who are like, organic everything, no chemicals, is like, technically taken all the way down, everything is a chemical. And I was like, yeah, our
Yes.
words kind of matter with that. So
Yes.
microbes, taken all the way down, like,
Right.
microbes cause injury, microbes cause poisoning. The
Right.
presence or absence of microbes like causes malnutrition. So yeah, kind of.
Yes.
Hmm.
Right. So for me, like that's where I would put that.
Hmm.
Say if someone was really like, I subscribe to these principles in the way of sort of nothing can be contagious in that way.
Hmm.
I would personally find that difficult observing nature at
Hmm.
large, and really seeing what I'm thinking of as contagion as being
Hmm.
something I can witness.
Sure. Yep.
And I still think, like, so for me, that would not be like I wouldn't subscribe to that newsletter or whatever, if you will, that particular thing.
Hmm.
But I also wouldn't then say, therefore, the rest has no merit, because I can
Yes.
still say, I have caught an infection and I'm witnessing the symptoms,
Hmm.
because that's how I'm conceiving it.
Yep.
I can still say, wow, body, look at you working with
Yep.
nature
That's right.
that
Yep.
now is poisoning me,
Hmm.
like poison
Yeah,
ivy.
totally.
Look,
Totally.
nature. Oh,
Yes.
look how that beautiful natural chemical is poisoning my
Hmm.
skin. And
Uh-huh.
look at how the redness, look at the boils. And I could still
Hmm.
say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And like that
Yep.
literally would be
Yep.
so helpful
Yes.
versus resistance in terms of my experience of that disease of poison
Yes.
ivy on my skin. And similar, it's like,
Yes.
thank you, sinuses, thank you,
That's right.
mucus, and I
Yep.
don't have to say it like fight it and kill the virus. Like, I can respect
Well,
it and say, but thank you for finding right relationship between these
absolutely.
things, and including inviting the amount of this microbe that is causing harm to my body
Yeah.
to exit. Like, I could say it that way, and that
Well,
feels nicer, to
and
be
this is
honest.
okay. And this is the thing this is why I love Dr. Melissa Sell's interpretation and teaching of GNM, because one of the things she really belabors is essentially like, it is in alignment with German new medicine. Because again, we're talking about underlying, like, internalized conflict, right?
Mhm.
So this is where her thing of like, what you believe about a treatment matters more than the treatment itself. Or
Yeah.
she has this really cute Instagram thing that she wrote, this like adorable poem about how it's not the gluten and it's not the cheese. It's like it's not the food you're eating. It's how you feel about the
Mm.
food you're eating. Like, it's not the thing you're doing. It's how you feel. Because if you are in conflict about, like, if you get poison ivy and you're fucking mad at your body and you're mad at nature and you're mad at yourself and
Yeah.
that's an internal conflict. You are
Mm.
now you are generating a conflict. You have created for yourself a little conflict shock about this thing that could be totally benign. And now that's actually, this would have been fine, but now, like, that's the source of the adaptation in the body, and then where the symptoms. So, very often what people identify as like food intolerances and allergies, like, it's actually, and we have come to understand this too as we research more about like the gut microbiome. Like, it's less about like you're quote unquote allergic to gluten and more about like the bacteria in your gut, or like what your gut is working with, like, can't digest that particular substance. So it's like not really a problem with the substance as it is with like your ability to assimilate the
Mm.
substance. And that generally is like a lot of what's going on. So on an emotional, spiritual level, that's essentially what she's saying. Like, it's not the thing, it's your ability to assimilate the thing. So
Yeah.
so where I take that as it relates to like the personhood of the body and interacting with our body is exactly what you just said. It's not that I need to, because again, there are people who like are really committed to the belief that like nothing is contagious and nothing. I just don't really care that much. And
Right.
like could be, could not be. Because for me, the bottom line is exactly what you just said, Joan. It's like, how is that being expressed emotionally within yourself?
Yeah.
How is that impacting and affecting the state of your nervous system that is then signaling to your body mind safety or absence of safety? If it's
Hmm.
reading as absence of safety, if you are now in a closed, resistant posture,
Yeah.
guess what your body thinks? Your body thinks there's an emergency going on. Guess what
Yeah.
then happens? Enter into conflict phase. So
Yeah.
now we're all the way circle back around to like the efficacy of German new medicine. So my personal opinion is very much like I could take or leave number 4. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter that much to me because no matter how you square it, whether there are
There's just, you could actually put it
exactly as
into
you
different
said,
categories, right? Like you
yeah,
could be like,
totally.
no, that's
Yes.
just the poison category because whatever,
Enacting the
Yeah.
process of believing your body's on your team is available to you on
That's
either side.
that's the winning bridge. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
that's it.
And that is a healing thought period in my
Hmm.
view, right? And
Yeah.
like even like whatever understanding or like what level of understanding or kind of understanding you have about specifics, I do think that's such a helpful
Yeah.
framework
Hmm.
that leaves you more trusting and in love with your body. And I think
Yes.
that leaves you to good places.
Yes. I agree with that completely. This paradigm shift on the whole, G&M to me feels like a paradigm shift into, yeah, just it's very congruent with my spiritually informed beliefs about the body. I believe those were also Dr. Hammer's spiritually informed beliefs about the body. Um, it feels very congruent with my commitment to the belief that like my body is wise and she is for me.
Yeah.
I'll just finish with this quote from Nellie New Earth Wellness. And it comes from a larger thing that I'll probably share in our Substack at some point, but where she talks about what German new medicine is not and what it is. Like it is not a healing modality. It's actually not. It's a roadmap that helps us understand the root cause and resolution pathway of our symptoms. Like that's a really wonderful way of understanding German new medicine. So share more about that in the Substack. But she said, German new medicine is a documentation of our most primal and sensical biology that invites a return to a way of thinking, being, and living that align us with the very essence of life itself.
Hmm. And I'm on board for anything that does
Anything
that.
that does that. Totally.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And in
Yes.
any
Absolutely.
like truly any pathway, and it's like many paths up the mountain. I think it makes sense that this is a path up the mountain,
Hmm.
and it's the spirituality overlay is so strong, right? Like
Hmm.
also like blindfolded monks, they're all touching the elephant, but they're touching different parts, right? So it's
Yeah.
going to
Yep.
seem like
Yep.
what it's not a tree, it's a rope because they're touching different parts, but like
Yes.
actually you're all touching the same thing. And
Yeah.
I love I'm going to just, subscribe to the newsletter. If any philosophy, as in like, I'm interested, I'm open, and I want to
Yep.
take what makes
I'm
sense
willing
for
to
me
engage
and
with.
integrate it and
Yeah.
engage with. And like,
Yeah.
and I can subscribe to as many newsletters as I want.
Yep.
Just like,
That's
'cause
right.
like I did the thing where there was one right way.
That's
And I'm
right.
just very not
Boring.
interested in that.
Yeah.
It's
It just
too
doesn't feel good in my
insular.
body.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'll be like, ooh, I'll
Hmm.
take a bit. I will do
Yep.
shopping cart religion. You know how that was like
Yes.
dismissive? I'm like,
Oh,
no,
totally. That was very
I'm going
much
down
not
all the
allowed.
aisles
Yep.
of all
Hmm.
the things. And
Yep.
this being like this beautiful way of exploring symptoms of like, is perhaps what's happening here the healing aftermath of something
Hmm.
that you've experienced and actually like kind of worked your way through? Like,
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool question to
Yeah.
have in my mind, speaking with patients and listening for that as a potential
Yep.
to offer to people, along with the ones of like, what do you think your body's trying to tell you? Or like these
Totally.
other ways.
Yep.
I could see that opening up new insights for people of some of what's happening.
Yeah. It feels very congruent to me with what I've already heard you mention that you really love integrating into your practice is asking your patients what they want to celebrate. Like
Yes.
allowing people to like understand that like, hey, the symptoms you're experiencing right now that are really not fun. What if this is like your body's doing a victory lap right now? Like what if we could understand
Victory
that
lap
like
is so
so
good.
and so again, and I will often do this when I'm working with people where they'll have symptoms and I'll look up on the German New Medicine website and then I'll get the gift of like articulating to them that like, hey, you're in a healing phase of what? Oh, of this type of conflict. You walked through that, you worked through that with the utmost integrity. And then often when I am working with people, they are in fact telling me of how they felt this thing go on. And then they went and they moved in the direction of their bodies and they pulled at the threads and they found the source rooted in like the developmental attachment fear and and then they met that with full presence and they're doing it. They literally are like resolving these conflicts. And now they have this sinus infection. And I get the gift of looking at them and going, oh my God, you did it. You did
Yeah.
it.
Look at how this means you did it.
Put that in medicine. Put that in medicine and watch
Yeah.
what happens. Watch what happens.
Yeah. Just the notion of celebration.
Yes.
And I think I'll say, like you already said it earlier on. And I think the thing that I think is almost, I can't think of how it would be helpful to say, is using any idea like this in the direction of instead like blame, shame,
Hmm. Hmm.
every philosophy I can think of, you including the modern medicine type of philosophy. Like when
Hmm.
people are ashamed they've given themselves diabetes.
Ah, totally. Yeah.
When
Hmm.
and that's modern medicine. And
Yep.
sometimes people are like literally like saying that to people and you're like, "Ah, stop
Yep.
it." Like,
Yep.
please. And then there's a version of every kind of thing that's offering hope where then it could be twisted to say, and if you don't do it, then it's your fault
Right.
if you die of cancer. That's like always like what that
Right.
ends up
Oh,
being. And it's
totally.
like
Yeah.
so sad and so
Hmm.
tragic. And like
Hmm.
using any philosophy to shame and blame. Let's
Yeah.
do something else with our time and attention.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
setting that aside, instead looking at it in a generative, imagine a
Hmm.
possibility. Like,
Hmm.
what does it inspire in you? And like this
Yes.
philosophy, I can hear, first of all, how much it's inspired in you. And
Hmm.
how cool is that?
Hmm.
And I feel inspired by like the idea of describing symptoms as healing. I
Yeah.
can really connect with those without honestly having to throw away anything that's meaningful to me
Hmm.
in what I have learned within modern.
Yep.
So I think that's pretty cool too.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
there's a way to again bridge these things.
Yes. Because I do think it is more possible than a lot of people
Yeah.
imagine it to be
Yes.
because there is this such a conceptualization of like this is one paradigm or ideology and this is an opposite one. This is a different
Yeah.
one. And
It's
so they have
pseudoscience,
to
so it's got
stay
to go over
over here. Yeah,
there.
that's
It's
exactly right.
contagious or
That's
something,
my
you know.
issue with it being
Yeah.
labeled as pseudoscientific is like, well, now it has to go over there and you can't touch it.
Yeah. But what if there's things in there to touch?
What if there's things in there to touch? They want to be touched.
They want to be touched.
They
They
want
will
to be
they will
caressed
help. They will
softly.
touch you. They will
They
touch
will touch you. They
Yeah.
will. They will. And also like I am passionate about these things hopefully like being integrated into the modern model. But even if they aren't, this is working for people all over the fucking place already. So like it's
Mhm.
impossible to continue the illusion, the facade that it doesn't get a place at the table because it has
It's
no
helping
efficacy,
people.
because it's nonsense, because it's pseudoscientific, because it's, what was the word they used in the Flexner report? Quackery and
Yeah.
charlatanism. Sorry, you can't get away with that fiction anymore. It's literally it's working. It's working for people right now. So whether you allow it to be in the room or not, if someone wants to find it, they're going to find it. I just think that doctors will be able to relieve the burden off of themselves more if they're willing to let this be a part of it, because if you start having interactions with your patients where like they become aware that like, oh, you're not sick in a way that I can give you something for it. You're in a healing phase and you just need like water and rest and time.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I did
What does
literally
that
say
do
that
for
to people
Yes.
today. You know, there's certain conditions where
Yes.
people get it, and then
Yep.
sometimes people just can't get it, and
Yep.
or like they're in a phase of declining to really think about getting it. But it's a lot of the gig. It's
Yep.
like
Hmm.
do no harm.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, I just want to say it too. I was like, it's at the table. whether
Yeah.
individual people are comfortable with it being at the table or not. Like it is
Because no one actually
yielding.
owns the table. So
No one owns the
what are you
table.
going
There you go. That's it.
to
There it
do?
is. Perfect way to put it. No one owns the table. Anyone can sit down if they want. The
Sorry.
end. Yeah.
So true.
Okay, well, yeah, there
Thank you,
I guess
Jamie.
I'm done. I've got like so many more notes,
I
but I don't need to
bet.
say them right now. It's totally fine. Yeah, I feel complete. Yeah.
Oh, I feel quite honored to have witnessed this beautiful like channeling of
Mm.
what matters to you, and
Mhm.
hearing you really like in real time like feel out why it matters and what matters. Like that's what I
Mhm.
really felt like. And you'd be like, oh yeah, and this point, and like, and you were connecting them in real time.
Yeah.
I felt like I just was like hanging out with you in like the realm of imaginative possibility in
Mhm.
terms of like creating the connections of why something that matters on a level that's not verbal, like you said, like
Yeah.
this. And if I'm speaking in a way that you don't agree with. But like what I heard from you is like this connected with you on like in a way that was beyond verbal. And so,
Mhm.
but now like, how do I verbalize it?
Mhm.
And I think you did a great job. Just to say,
Thank
I
you.
tracked you the whole time. It was
Okay, great.
fine.
Great, great,
Yeah.
great.
And
I'm
I
glad.
could feel the passion and the cadence of like what mattered to in the storytelling of it.
Yeah. Mhm.
That really resonated with me as well.
Oh, I'm so glad.
And
Yeah, that feels important to me.
yeah, it helped me understand why it's important to you.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I think that's really cool.
Thank you. As you were saying that, what just came to me is like the main reason why it's so important to me is because like I'm just so desperate for us to return back to a thorough curiosity in the direction of the body. And
Yeah. Ooh.
it really feels at this point that like the thing we've been trying to do for 120 years of not turning with curiosity towards the body, at least not enough where we're willing to like, move out beyond
Yeah.
the realm of our like committed to assumptions. Like I'm really desperate for us to like return back to like a disposition of securely anchored curiosity, like a fearless curiosity in the direction of the body, because
Yeah.
I really do believe bodies are capable of so much more than, we, for the most part, like normative consciousness really believes that bodies are capable of. And so much of that limitation to the imagination is because of like the actions and assessments and assumptions that exist in modern medicine. If what we
Yeah.
understand as modern medicine is willing
Yeah.
to like dissolve itself actually and just like decide to go, return to a place of, or maybe for the first time ever, enter into this like very holistic medicine, can move beyond the modern medicine into just like this buffet of just like
Yeah. The
here's
menu.
so many true things. Like I really believe that will unlock the final phase of the evolution of fucking consciousness. I'm so serious. Like,
Let's go.
so that's why this matters to me. Let's go.
Only that. Just
Please,
casual.
medicine, do it. Please, please, please save yourself. Please, medicine, save yourself. Do it. Oh my God, please.
Oh, that's really funny. And awesome.
Okay, so I'm going to stop talking now and ask you the most important final question, as we've
Yes.
been, anchoring this whole conversation and, a willingness to work with the baseline assumption of the goodness of the body, which is not hard for you at all.
Mm-hmm.
What part of your body has come to you throughout this conversation that you would like to extend appreciation, gratitude, or to dedicate this episode to today?
Gosh. Okay, the thing that's coming to me, I have slight hesitation because I'm
Mm.
probably going to get it a little bit wrong because it was something
Mm.
new that I learned about the body. I was
Mhm.
listening to a podcast I like, and they were talking about a somewhat recent discovery that I think recently got a Nobel Prize
Mm.
for medicine, I think. So, like, I'm about to get a bunch of the details wrong because I'm just going to repeat what I heard on a podcast
Join
once.
me
You know
in
what I mean?
that place,
So
that
I'll be there
internal
too.
place of like, I'm just going to say stuff.
So I am everyone. I invite you not to take my words as the word of law ever, please. But
Mhm.
please feel free to Google this and like discover for yourself what version of it hits you and what you see.
Mhm.
So there's certain kinds of cells in the immune system called T
Mhm.
cells,
Mhm.
and they were investigating how it was that cells that are meant to identify potential harm, and looking for those harms, like how they weren't
Mhm.
constantly accidentally identifying their own cells, like creating like autoimmune,
Ah.
right? Like
Uh-huh.
how are
Yes.
they not just like constantly making mistakes of that? And like, why does
Yeah.
everyone not have so much autoimmune disease all the time?
Totally. Yeah.
And so they discovered like a bonus kind of these T cells that they hadn't previously discovered.
Mhm.
That's, I think they're called the manager T cells. Like that's coming to my mind, but that might be
Mhm.
wrong. But like, the name of it sounded neat, where like their job is to somehow have the wisdom to intercede
Ah.
between the ones that are like kind of the cops that are like, who's the bad guy, who's the good guy.
They're the regulatory
They're like
service.
yeah, and so this sort of, again, this sort of sense of like that the body has all of these
Yeah.
intricate balancing
Yeah.
mechanisms that
Yep.
are never quote unquote perfect, but
Mhm.
that's because that's like a false colonial kind of notion of what we mean. Like
Yes.
everything's got some flow and some mess, and everything's gray, not black and white. But like and the discovery of that and like how that could like that knowledge of it could help us understand maybe how to support autoimmune
Mm.
in that kind of way more like
Mhm.
so appreciating first of all that there's so much more to discover,
Mhm.
including, I agree with you, remembering what like colonial
Mhm.
supremacy based medicine like
Mhm.
actively like extinguished and
Yeah.
forgot. Like
Yep.
so there's so much that we don't even have to do that much work if we want. Like we can like
Yep.
find and just listen and unearth. But also then like weaving like move forward. So that, but specifically like thank you manager T cells for taking care of
Yeah.
the rest of my cells and keeping this really intricate, you could say, security system or protective system within me like doing its job without doing too much. And like
Yes.
and thinking like nervous system, we all think of it of how that's like, and then maybe we get overprotective because of our
Mhm.
trauma, whatever, but
Mhm.
like in the immune system level as well. That's the very specific part of my body I want to shout out are these newly discovered, I'm going to call them manager T cells, and I hope that's the
Mm.
name of it, but like the new
Cool.
ones that just were discovered.
The hot new
The
cells.
hot new cells that still like someone had the like I think it is, and it took a while for someone to find a way to
Yeah.
show it was true because like that's
Uh-huh.
how science can work. And I just
Yes.
that so for some reason is what connects with this conversation again because it was this hidden
That makes
thing
sense to
in
me.
plain sight,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
it's about the body being so brilliant
Yeah.
at tending to the body self.
Yes. There's like an even deeper dynamism to it than we thought before. That is right in line with that last thing I said. Just like it's even bigger and better and deeper than we
It's
currently know. And
about
we're just
more.
gonna, if we're willing to, we're
Yeah.
just gonna keep finding that out like over and over. If we let
Yes.
our observations be rooted in like like
Yes.
curious
Genuine
assumptions.
curiosity and
Yes.
open-mindedness.
Yes. Absolutely. Wow, that's so cool.
That's so
And yeah,
cool.
just like as I'm hearing you say that, I'm like, that makes like deep sense to me somehow that there's like these
Yeah.
managers of these, the ones carrying out the mission. They're busy
Yeah.
carrying out the mission. They got to have, get their orders given to them directly from the managers of the, wow,
Yeah.
that's
Isn't
cool. I love that.
that cool?
Oh, wow.
Cells.
Cells. Thank you, cells. Shout out to cells. I mean,
Shout
yeah, a
out.
lot of GNM is like, here's what the cells are doing. And they're brilliant and they're good at their job. So,
And I co-sign that 100%.
yeah.
They are so
Yeah.
brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, Jamie, you
Okay,
did it.
well, that's plenty for today.
Yeah. You prepped it and you did it. And now
Wow,
it's
it's done. It's
done.
over.
Congratulations.
Oh, wow.
Celebration.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Celebration day.
Yeah, I'm not dead. That's great. I
You're not
lived.
dead.
I
Nobody
survived.
that like
No
no one
one's dead.
struck you down.
Well, no, yeah, no one's dead because of that. I'm sure some people
No.
died in the course of the last 2.5 hours, but
Yes, that is
bless
how.
them.
Yes.
Not my fault.
Not because of you. Not some weird superstitious.
I didn't do it. Yeah.
You did it. You're so fun. I didn't do it. I didn't kill nobody with my words. I get it.
Not today.
I get it.
No. All right, let's get out of here. You got to go to bed.
I gotta go to bed for sure.
Okay.
I love you, Jamie.
Well, love you, and I'll see you in voice memos this week.
See ya.
Okay, bye.
This is Experiential Anatomy. Thanks for listening. I'm Joan Chan.
And I'm Jamie Lee Finch. Experiential Anatomy is co-hosted and created by us.
Amber Wyndham is the editor. Julia Wyndham is the supervising producer.
Senior producer is Elizabeth Wyndham. Aaron Beatty leads our community management.
Our theme music is Park Pier 3 by G's Guy.
If you have any thoughts, questions, or stories to share about this week's episode, email us at exanatomy@gmail.com.
Please follow, rate, and review on your favorite podcast platform. And remember to join us over at exanatomy.substack.com.
Experiential Anatomy is produced by Windhaven Productions.
How are you feeling so far, Jamie?
Yeah, I feel,